Let's do this. I'm on. I'm live. Did the podcast replace the press release? Just had to, for a moment, recall what is it that I'm going to talk to you about today. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about today. Has the podcast replaced the press release, the thing that so many brands rely on in order for them to get media placement? This is what a press release is for, to get media placement, to get coverage. Has the podcast replaced it? Now, clearly it hasn't, but it's definitely quite um in terms of competition, it's there, it's on par, it's absolutely essential if you're looking for major brand awareness. Major. So let's talk about it. How are you? I am Serena. This is Serena's Playbook. I have 25 years in the comms media content creation space. I'm currently in the last leg of my master's, my postgrad in systems thinking, which really levels up your strategic thinking. And I'm here to share a lot of those nuggets with you. And I'm writing a book, so you can get the link for that. Everything is available in the description. So awesome. Let's get into this episode. It's so wonderful to have you here, creators, brands, and businesses. So I think when you're looking to promote yourself or you're seeing brands promote themselves, especially when they have a release, a launch, anything of that description, you notice that they're all on someone's podcast, and it might not be a podcast that has a fantastic reach. It may not be, but the key thing is that's an advert, quite a long form advert. A podcast is a long form advert that can engage for a long period of time. What happened there to my internet? I don't know, but it can engage somebody for a long period of time, and you can really sell to them. You can sell a story to them. You can like super duper convince them of anything. That sounds awful, but I've got a lot of things going on here. I've got these. I have irritated eyes. I've irritated my eyes. Too much screen time. Why is that? Why so much screen time? Well, that's because I have been on dissertation deadlines. I'm working also, and I'm a content creator, so I'm looking at screens a lot. So you normally used to see me like this. I can't see a thing. I've got irritated eyes. It could be swimming as well. And I had to give my eyes a break from the contact lenses. And so I've got my regular schmegular because I'm short-sighted, and then I've got my screen glasses. It's okay. I'm middle-aged. So we're good. It's on par with my brand of being a middle-aged person. So here we go. Let's talk about this. It's so wonderful to have you here for a live. Hey, Joshua, watching from the US, a supporter of more than one channel. It's awesome to have you here, and I do appreciate your support. So let's get into this. The podcastification of everything, and why it would be sensible for you to have, for your brand to have a broadcasting strategy. Now, I come from print publishing, the days of radio and your regular schmegular media, pre-social media. And I remember being on newsroom floors. I remember being in publicity. This wonderful vintage pendant is actually a clock. It's just wonderful. So I recall being in spaces where you were lucky to have a phone call with a journalist, or you were lucky to contact the right PR person in order to get coverage, in order to get the kind of exposure that would really make or break your brand. But, things have changed, as we all know. Now, you could say the press release is dead because that's the thing that you would send journalists. That's what PR send out to journalists, but also other stakeholders. You could also say that the media tour is in intensive care. In the if we're gonna go with the whole thing about it being dead, you could say that. But the interview where journalists will ask you questions that a podcast host, not necessarily a trained journalist, will ask you questions and perhaps even go off script is increasingly interesting to so many audiences. So we have a microphone, something as simple as a microphone in a streaming service. I use Restream, or an in-person interview with a ring light or fancy studio lights can just do absolutely everything. Now, I do not endorse any podcast. In fact, I'm not a fan of a lot of them, but I watch them anyway. She prefaced she prefaced the following thing with that. So, the Diary of a CEO, the Diary of a CEO hosted Ivanka Trump. I'm not a fan of either, but you see how powerful that is to place your client, the public figure, whoever it is, that requires some oomph in their visibility on a mainstream-ish podcast that has very high visibility. And this is a great example of the podcastification of everything. I'm doing a separate one about the podcastification of politics on my current affairs channel. Check that out. But this isn't just politics. It's not just media. It's not just PR campaigns. It's reputation management. It's brand launches. It's CEO positioning. It's corporate crisis response. It's all of it. All of the above being rerouted through the podcast format. And if you don't understand why, then you're making a mistake in communications, honestly. So we've got to shift to this content trend. Now, this isn't to suddenly just jump on a mic and just chat. That's not what we're saying. We're saying use a long form audio format in order to capture your key messages and your story, which you would want a blog or a news story to do. It's what you rely on your it's what you rely on your regular traditional content channels to do. This, you're missing a trick. It's also exhausting. Podcasts are exhausting. I don't tune into all of them. I'll watch clips if I need to do a TikTok reaction, or dive into the whole thing just to get the proper context. So I'm doing my research. Most that I tune into are politics, geopolitics, international relations, or sort of professional ones, and they're usually on the background while I'm doing other things, but I'm engaging in them. Um, and the reason why is because politicians used this format, this podcast format, in order to engage with not just an electorate, but all the stakeholders, all the possible funders, the people who would fund a party, a campaign, a political campaign. Gavin Newsom in America launched a podcast in February 2025, widely read as essentially an infrastructure for his national political ambitions. In the UK, Zach Polanski, we know, leader of the Green Party, has become the first sitting party leader to host a regular podcast. Liz Truss even launched a YouTube show. Sorry, revealing my bias. So these aren't they aren't experiments. These are strategic choices. They are absolutely choices being made by these figures. And so, from a media literacy perspective, it's really important for us to understand that this isn't just a conversation they want us to hear. There's propaganda in this. I would say, of course, podcast format has become popular because there is declining trust in traditional media, which is leading politicians and execs and celebrities to bypass an editorial and that gatekeeping of traditional media, and instead give access to some kind of a sympathetic host who's just really grateful to have a guest, and who might not ask difficult questions, and you can really get away with spouting a lot of your nonsense without being challenged. Now, this isn't necessarily groundbreaking. You would need a really thorough journalist to ask the right questions for it to be a media story. But this is more a case about your stakeholder mapping. This is for you to understand how this format can reach all your different stakeholders. So the brand is essentially then going direct to all these multiple stakeholders. And then the question should really be, for your clients, it's not, oh, should we get on podcast? It's basically, hang on a second, but which podcast? Who's controlling the frame that you're going to be heard in? How can we influence this programming? It's requires some planning, and absolutely it's used to manipulate. We know that as well, unfortunately. We know that the medium and that pre-planning is a way to curate, let's say, not manipulate, curate the conversation so that it does the sort of promotion of ideas that might not even be suitable to traditional media because of the editorial rigor, which I won't say all traditional media has. So, as I said, this isn't like, this is it. You're going to get the story, the groundbreaking story. No, you would require a really thorough journalist or a very free and flippant and unfiltered guest to just talk to any kind of a podcast host to get those kinds of clips and to get that kind of media story. So yes, are you going to curate this conversation in advance or just see what happens? I do not encourage, advise anyone who is within this digital communication space, who is looking to go on a podcast, who's preparing their client for it, or even the podcast host, to not engage in some kind of preparation. Ask your guest, what are the top 3 things that you want this episode to cover, that you want the audience to leave with? There's that bit. And then there's the bit on the part of your client and the guest, asking the podcast host, asking the journalist, what are your questions in advance that I would like to prepare? And that's completely fair. You should absolutely do that. Of course, you're going to be surprised, but that's where all the preparation in the background takes place. If you've seen my other videos, and I talk about your preparation around your awareness of your space, the media, the zeitgeist awareness, you can then anticipate any risky questions and be on point when you're actually on air, or when the record button has been pressed. Of course, we still want to send out press releases. Of course, we'll still do that. It'll be part of the mix. You have far more control over the press release. You write it, you're controlling that script, and you may get follow-up questions from whomever you send that to before they decide to publish something. They might want some extra information, in which case you'll need to have like notes to editors section where you can add extra stuff, or just have that ready somewhere in your folders so you can respond to those questions in a timely manner. But that same script you will need to hold on to mold your answers around the questions that are going to be asked of you by said podcast host, by the thorough journalist. So a podcast can be absolutely game changing, but can also be incredibly revealing, and you may not be able to hide. So, thank you so much. These glasses are actually quite exhausting to wear. I'm not used to it, but thank you so much for joining this live stream. It's on the fly. I'm just on my way to do bits and bobs, but I'm also on deadline. It's the weekend. I hope you have a wonderful one. Please do subscribe. I have multiple links available for you. You can check my Substack out as well. And I have a book I'm writing called Many Things at Once. Jump on the link for that for the pre-sale, and I'll catch you in the next video, or indeed the next live stream. Now I need to put these back on to turn this live off.